political divisiveness, you'll find that they are not together. When the president comes and said, my president is tanga-tanga, and such a things, surely we don't need all that. We don't need all that drama. And Ram, I think if we go back to the people's expectation on Thursday, the president is also going to talk about the implementation of the National Integrated Information Systems. This is the NIMS, which is called in Uduma number, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And you'll agree, I don't know, our legal officer here will tell us, the senators are grumbling that we do not have the legislative pieces to back up this. He'll tell us more about that one. So Duale should concentrate so much on the legislation to push forward the Big Four agenda. But what we are seeing here is a lot of politics. But
Honorable Duale had said that he expects to have more laws to ensure that we achieve the legacy projects.
When these laws are going, and when you look at the scenario in the parliament, people are dozing there, people are fighting there, people are just playing around there. Surely, I'm so sorry to say that. I'm one person, Ram, who goes through the progress of the entire system of the National Assembly. But these guys are joking with us here.
The members of parliament are joking. Which guys are joking? Clarify.
I'll tell you, I'll clarify that. How come? Okay, they'll claim that they are in the rural areas, but when you go to the rural areas, you hardly see them there. When you come to their house attendants.
Have you done that?
Where? Yes, I've gone to my rural areas. Very few. Look, I'm telling you, look at the numbers of those who come in the parliament. Look at the numbers. Look at the seats, the empty seats. Even those who are there, they don't articulate the problem of Wanjiku with the seriousness that it deserves. Now, we need. Let me finish.
Yes.
I think we need a commission or a department within the Public Service Commission to vet these politicians, to vet them, because now what we are seeing in the political arena is anybody will come in with a rotten history, of many things that he has done, and because he has money, and Wanjiku is very, very, very hungry in the stomach, he'll come in. This is the problem which we have. We don't have people with integrity who are holding the mantle of political leadership in this country. We should change that narrative.
Retired Major, you seem to have lost hope.
I've not lost hope, but
you seem to despair.
Have you lost hope?
I'm not lost hope. The loss is there, but majority of the Kenyans surely they have lost hope on the trust of our political leaders. That is where they are. That is where the position is.
Yes, you have said that our members of parliament are not serious.
Not all of them.
Not all of them.
Not all of them.
Now, it puts to question here. We are having a State of the Nation being addressed in parliament with people who are not serious.
Some of them. And they must even heckle the president because they're very conservative, they are seeing things in the negative, they are self-centered.
Let me come to you, Areba. Of course, this time around there will be no heckling. You can take that to the bank, get a loan. I'll pay in case they heckle him. but then sometimes we seem to have a lot of hope in our leaders, and yet we really made the most wrong mistakes.
The citizens.
Yes, the citizens. You know, sometimes we talk about these issues of corruption, the issues of hunger and everything. The only way we solve these issues is at the ballot. And when at the ballot, we choose mediocrity, we choose people with no track record, and leave the likes of Daniel Orogo here, who stood and he could only garner a handful of votes. And then
that's true.
That's information we need him to clarify here.
So then these are the results that we get. In that, I said this before, in that when it comes to priority of our leaders, or rather of most our leaders, there is no priority. And that is why Professor Magoha gets into office in the first day, and when he walks around, he's shocked. Why was he shocked?
People are not in office.
People are not in office. He was not supposed to be shocked. That is the kind of system that we have. When we come back to Parliament, as you said, our members of Parliament, when you come to Nairobi, you're told they're in the reserve. When you go to the village, they're told, Omwoyo, Nairobi. So you wonder, where are they? And you saw the other day some kind of recommendations that we need to have them stay in hotels when they're in Nairobi. So that clearly shows you the kind of leaders that we have. It doesn't matter how many people are dying in Turkana. What we have agreed is that the people, it's political capitalism, which we only go for after every 5 years. Once the political capitalism has been utilized after 5 years, you can go to hell.
Also, really much of support with what my two colleagues have talked about. But then one of the things that I am really hoping is when the head of state is addressing, the state of the nation, would he actually delve into the issue about assisting to have very accountable systems that are supported within the chambers. I mean, I'm looking forward to him asking the committees that are quasi-judicial in nature, those that I've always been hearing, for example, the appointments, the issues with different departments, would they begin to invest on people who integrity? I support with what Areba has just talked about, that we might not see a lot of heckling and complaining during the delivery of this much anticipated State of the Nation address. But I am
regardless of the wrangles,
I am fearful of a stage-managed and inspired walkout, especially coming from the MPs in Rift Valley.
Now you've talked about
my fear,
stage-managed and inspired walkout.
Yes.
It
is my fear that the president, in his wisdom, as the leader of the ruling coalition and a symbol of national unity, would assure the parliamentarians who are representative of the people that regardless of any situation, regardless of any political disagreement, it is important to listen to the State of the Nation address. Because my fear is that while we are wrangling about reassurance of 2022, reassurance of the support of DP in 2022, that has not been forthcoming, taking into consideration complaints from some sections of the Jubilee representative, especially in Rift Valley. And hence, the demand on the importance of having a PG before the delivery of the State of the Nation address. This is where we are coming from, where there is an ultimatum that is already issued out. You have to meet us as members of parliament from different backgrounds in this area. So my fear is that while that may happen, it happened in 2015 when he was heckled, in 2016. I am hopeful that our representative, it's important for them to listen because they are required conclusively and afterwards to debate that speech. So you cannot debate what you didn't sit down to listen to the details of.
And I quote, kuna watu wengine ingawa tunajaribu kuwafundisha mambo ya kuweka Wakenya pamoja, mambo ni maendeleo kwa sababu walizoea kugawana, fujo, kabila. Inachukua muda lakini watazoea ndio tuendelee kufanya mambo ya maendeleo ya kuweka Wakenya pamoja. That is what the Deputy President had said with regards to divisive politics, with regards to divisiveness within the country. Some people are not used.
I think Rama is also we expect him also going to try and explain the meaning of the handshake. You see, the handshake.
Who should explain the meaning?
The president himself. In regard to unifying the country. You remember he promised us something. I don't know whether you can remember. He told us soon after the handshake, he's going with the leader of the opposition, who is the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, to go around the country synthesizing people on the unity. And I think he's going to talk much. I think our politicians also, as much as they are there, they do not understand, or they understand the meaning or the meaning of the handshake. But again, always some of them want to have the image of the meaning of the handshake to their own political self-interest. They know what it is. They know what it is. And I think the president is going to clarify. It is going to clarify on the meaning of the unity of the handshake between him and Raila, because most of the people do not want to understand, or they understand, but they want to have the political agenda to their favor.
I'm aware we only have 10 minutes left, so let's head over to the next agenda of the day. Remember, these things are much, because even at some point here, there's the debate, is the handshake making the Big Four agenda not to be achieved? All right, but we shall be dwelling into that, be part of this conversation. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. One more thing that we need to talk about, the Ghana President Yoweri Museveni was on a 3-day tour of the country, during which there was a 2-day state visit at the port of Mombasa. The visiting Ugandan president received a 21-gun salute, a ceremony traditionally reserved for the heads of state and government, which was preceded by the national anthems of Kenya and Uganda, and together also with the East African community, played by the Kenya Navy Band. Different things took place. They had talks at the Mombasa Port's efficiency. They toured the ongoing construction of the 450 million cruise ship terminal set for completion in August. They also went through the process of clearing cargo and also inspected the second container terminal, and later traveled to Nairobi on the SGR. The president of Uganda, similarly, the first president from the outside of the country to use the SGR. Let's talk about the significance of President Yoweri Museveni coming into Kenya with regards to the EAC community. What value are we going to see with regards to this? Kenya-Uganda ties. Let me come to you, Areba.
First of all, when you look at the Kenya-Uganda ties, we cannot be able to discuss that in its isolation only. We have to discuss the East African community as a whole. We have always been talking about how we need the region to be integrated, and we have seen some countries then moving forward to try and come up with tripartite agreements on several issues. For me, we have enjoyed good relationship with our Ugandan brothers and sisters, save for the issues of Migingo. You had during the press between the ministers of foreign affairs of Kenya and Uganda, they clearly put that as one of the agenda item that was to be discussed, and they put timelines by when they should have deliberated and come up with a way forward. For me, I'm looking at a situation where we should have free movement of goods and services between the East African region. Relatively, with Uganda, we have been at ease. But then we have had some kind of suspicions with our brothers in the region, more so Tanzania, which then derails the vision to be able to integrate as a region. So I feel that when these presidents then they're visiting each other, they should talk more about the East African region and accelerate the integration.
Oh, we had the president of Rwanda and the president of Tanzania at some point. They held talks, and now we're seeing Kenya, Uganda. Within the East Africa region, what kind of integration are we looking forward to in terms of the building blocks, in terms of trade? Because one the core agenda for having the coming together of these countries is to ease trade.
Well, Ram, and thanks, Areba, for really bringing this into form. Even as we join these trading blocks, one of the most important things that we should consider is the Kenyan strategic interest in all spheres. Ugandans and Tanzanians are beating us down when it comes to safeguarding their interest. And that is why you see any issue, even on Migingo, before even they discuss about it, their troops are already there. But for us is about trying to be diplomatic about it. So one of the things I am urging, because one, Uganda is one of our, one of our trading partners, the biggest trading partners that we have. But we really need to take this into caution. For example, that when we are dealing with matters of East African community, our trading bloc, we must, as a country, and our diverse strategic foreign interests, must ensure that we are exporting a lot and gaining a lot more than we do. And that is our interest. It has to be deriving interest. But again, realize that Kenya has become a haven for the dialogue, especially when there is conflict within our good neighbors. The reason as to why we are coming into, and I like what the president is doing, that we are negotiating and trying to do shuttle diplomacy to bring together Uganda and Rwanda, because they're having a conflict.
Now let me come to you, Richard Major. What does it mean in terms of now bilateral relations between now Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda?
First of all, Ram, let me applaud our president. He's a very good diplomat here. Because you remember in 2017, President Museveni upset East African balance of economic power when he abandoned the earlier agreed plan to jointly build an oil pipe. Can you remember that? He really abandoned it.
Which at some point was, he took us back?
Yeah, and then he was opting to go to Tanzania. And you remember, we have landlocked countries in the integration of the East African community. We have the southern part of DRC, we have the Rwanda, the southern Sudan, we have Burundi, and as my colleague has said, it is the interest, the economic interest of our country which is at hand. And what our president has really done is to put in Museveni on board on the SGR, because most of the goods that come in through Mombasa port to the inland of those countries which I've stated is of good economic interest to our country. And that's why you see even the president himself has donated some of the lands to a dry port in Naivasha. And there's so many people talking about the president has a lot of family land there. I don't think whether that is true.
That is not the case?
Yeah, but the most important thing here is that he's bringing in Museveni, who did not want to see to work with Kenya. You remember, Ram, when we had post-election violence and what happened in Kibera. He suffered 1 week when we uprooted the rail line there. So President Uhuru Kenyatta is doing it diplomatically to bring him on board so that he can sponsor the SGR. You know, the Chinese agreement is to fund Uganda and Kenya so that the SGR can be pushed even further from the inland of Naivasha to the other areas of Kisumu, where the Uganda is going to take advantage. Even us, we are going to take advantage of that.
So this is going to be beneficial for the country?
For both of us, but more so to Kenyans more than Uganda. But even to Ugandans, because it is a landlocked country. Now, and Museveni will only depend on us for his survival. And what Uhuru is trying...
Do you think we depend on each other?
We depend on each other, and he wants to have interest. He doesn't want our interest to go to Dar es Salaam port, which because of the inefficiency of our port, when it took, for example, if you want to clear your cargo from Mombasa, there's a time here because of the lack of good performance by our officers in the port. It took more days, and people shifted the economies to Dar es Salaam. So our president once again want to bring these interlocked countries to SGR platform.
Now, other bilateral agreements signed on that day on Wednesday included seeing Uganda's sugar exports to Kenya increase from 36,000 tons to 90,000 tons. It will also resume the export of poultry to Kenya within weeks. You know, President Museveni said that in return, Uganda will immediately lift the ban on beef imports from Kenya, since the mad cow disease that occasioned this ban is no more. Okay, what are the expectations now in terms of an improvement in the economy? You know, we are talking about now the GDP. Remember that trade had gone down by over 30%, dropping down from 3.5 billion to 2.4 billion in the past.
But that's what we've just alluded to, that the fact that we are having these a joint, for example, we are having a joint border post, you know, it avoids the delay on transit of some of these goods or people services. Moving and services and businesses. So when we are having much of this agreement, they're looking towards easing, trying to make it efficient for goods and people and all this transport to move within. Because then if it takes around, we're talking about 18 hours from goods to take from Mombasa to Kampala, I think that is within their, their plan. But then we also must understand, Ram, that is what I said here, wherever we go to these bilateral talks, I don't understand why Kenyans would always say that we've been shortchanged. We've not been shortchanged. No, Kenyans would actually always say that any time our delegation is sent to these bilateral talks, there's also a feeling of other countries taking advantage about.
It's because we don't send competent delegations.
About your. That's what I'm saying about our delegation going. Then also, the concrete feedback from what we are getting into this talk. The sense in which there is no communication, tangible and concrete communication that this is what we've come out of. And that is why Kenyans are warranted. They have a right to actually raise issues. For example, they are feeling that even as much as we are allowing Uganda to come and establish a dry port in Naivasha, we are having our territorial boundaries threatened.
Now, Honorable Moses Kuria had sent a tweet, and as you're wrapping it up here, I would like to read this tweet and maybe get your comment on this. It brought a lot of debate, especially on Twitter. He posted this on Saturday, that Kenya got a very bad trade deal from Uganda bilateral negotiations. Our farmers were left dead. But when Museveni went for a lecture at Kenyatta University, the students did not chant, "Take back your sugar, milk, poultry, eggs, tiles, and a dry pot." Instead, they shouted Bobby Wine. Now, with regards to this, some people do not look at the bilateral trades between Kenya and Uganda positively. Are you seeing this as an improvement, especially for a country like Kenya? Are you seeing this as an improvement in terms of the trading blocks that we are having within EAC?
First of all, when you're having a bilateral agreement, it's about what you give and what you take. You cannot give 3 glasses and pick a plastic cup back. Because there needs to be value, or rather there needs to be reciprocity of what you are giving on equal or some kind of balance of probabilities on a measure. When I've not looked at what actually was signed between Kenya and Uganda, but the reports are of effect that we gave them 4 glasses full of water and we took a plastic mug from them. That is what the conversation is around. And what I'm saying is that whenever we're having these negotiations, first of all, let's prepare for and know what we exactly can gain from them. Let's not just wake up and start negotiating so that then we quickly sign and say, yeah, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. But then for the students at Kenyatta University who chanted that, I think that was wrong when they jeered Museveni at KU. That was wrong. And at least they will have had respect for the presidency and a visiting head of state. As much as probably they are fanatics of Bobby Wine, that did not give them that leeway to be able to shout down a visiting head of state. That was wrong.
Thank you very much, Areba. Time is not on our side.
Can I comment about Bobby Wine?
We don't have time. We don't have time. Forgive me for that. But we will comment on that and much more, even on our social media platforms. Keep the hashtag going on our Twitter handle. Good Morning Kenya at KBC Television at Ram Aguko. Eyes on Politics ends now. But before we do that, we're taking a short break. But there's a report by the news department that we would like you to take a look. And maybe your thoughts on this. Keep the Twitter handle as you watch this report by the news department on KBC Channel 1. Take a look.
Deputy President William Ruto was at St. Martin Karori Church in Banana area of Kiambu for Sunday church service. It is here where Ruto lashed at those purporting there were wrangles in the ruling Jubilee Party.
Uhuru Kenyatta kama rais wetu na mimi ni watu wazima, ni watu tuko na mpango, ni watu tunaelewa tunataka kupeleka Kenya wapi, na ni watu mlitupatia majukumu na Mungu akatubarikia, na mimi nataka niwaeleze mambo yote yatakwenda shwari.
According to the Deputy President, the government was keen on implementing developmental programs and that it has no room for unnecessary politics.
Na kama mtu ya mkono ya Uhuru Kenyatta, mimi nataka niwaeleze hatutatoka kwa barabara ya maendeleo na kuunganisha wa Kenya. Hata hawa wengine wote wapige makelele. Hawa wengine wote ni watu wamezoea makelele na fitina na fujo. Tunajaribu kuwasomesha mambo ya kuungana na mambo ya maendeleo.
Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, his Kajiado counterpart Joseph Olelenku and Samburu's Moses Lenol Kulal pledged their support for Ruto's 2022 presidential bid.
Bila hata sisi viongozi, hawa wananchi hawa wanataka tutimize ile ambayo tulikuambia kama Wakristo. Kwa sababu Mount Kenya region sisi ni Wakristo. Tukishasema kitu na imeombewa, sisi tunafanya vile tulishasema na iliombewa.
Hatutakubali hii taifa igawanyike. As leaders of this country, kama watu wa nchi hii na watu wanapenda nchi yao, Wakenya mahali waliko wajue handshake ikichukua mrengo wa kugawa taifa imekufa. Ikichukua mrengo wa kugawa taifa imekufa. Ujumbe wetu ni moja tu. Rais wetu na naibu wake walikuja kwetu wakatuambia tuko pamoja. Sisi bado tuko hapo tu. Hatujapata habari nyingine yoyote. Tunawangojea kama kuna story nyingine ni hao ndio watakuja kutuambia. Lakini ile sisi tunajua tuko pamoja.
Their sentiments were echoed by a number of legislators accompanying the Deputy President and who accused the opposition of peddling lies.
ODM na wabunge wa Jubilee ambao wameenda retreat, tunawaambia ukweli. Mwende Naivasha, sisi tuko mashinani Kiambaa constituency. Kura ziko na raia, kura haziko Naivasha katika mahoteli, na hiyo ndio ujumbe.
Siku itafika na usiwe na wasiwasi. Wacha watu wakupangie. Umeona Orengo wamekupangia, wameanza kujipanga, wameanza kuzunguka. Wacha wazunguke. Wameanza kukutusi, wacha waendelee kukutusi na waendelee kukupangia.
Moriega